Hello, my name is Yvette Ruiz. I'm the Vice President of Community Engagement at JP Chase. And my story with the United Way started when I was 20 years old, a recent UT grad, and I started volunteering with the Young Leaders Society and the United Way's Day of Caring. From there, my evolution with United Way has definitely grown and expanded, and I'm so proud to say that I am now one of the newest board members for the United Way of Greater Austin, and I'm so happy about it.
Yeah, we're super happy to have you. I was doing a little research, as we all do, before we interview people, and I'd love to hear you talk about how your work at JP Chase kind of intersects with United Way's mission in the community.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, we are trying, JP Chase is working towards providing opportunity for hardworking families to find economic prosperity. And United Way's mission to fighting poverty here in Austin, I think, is very much in alignment to the work that we're trying to do at JP Chase.
Why are you passionate about that? Why are you passionate about driving, inclusive financial growth in Austin?
Yeah, so creating economic prosperity for all people in Austin has definitely been a personal mission of mine since I was really young and little. My parents were educators, they were elected officials in the southernmost tip of South Texas in the Rio Grande Valley. And so we grew up in an area where not everyone had equal access to opportunity to be financially stable, to have equal access to housing and jobs, so growing up, you see that and you want to be a part of the solution, and you've got a family who provides you that vehicle. For me, when I came to Austin, I knew that I wanted to embed myself in this community, and the only way I knew how to do that was to start volunteering and getting involved in organizations that over time I learned were doing really impactful work. So I honestly feel like this passion of mine was a gift that was given to me by my parents. And something that I get to live through and kind of honor the citizens of Austin and kind of live up to the legacy that my parents have created for our family.
Yeah, if you'd like to speak about that a little more, I'd love to hear about what aspects of your parents in your growing up made you want to be this person that you are now.
Yeah, so it's so interesting. My mom was a teacher. Funny enough, she was my middle school principal and she was my high school principal, which when you're a child like me and not necessarily a rule follower, tends to not work out so well.
Right, yeah.
But education was a dinner time conversation, right? And education specifically as a ticket that someone can't take away from you, as a ticket to open doors that may not otherwise be open. And so the value of education that was placed on me at a very early age is something that as an adult I feel like I still carry a little bit. I always want to be a student of something. And again, just kind of tying it back to the United Way, the work that we have led with early childhood education and the Success by Six program is deeply meaningful. I mean, all of the data shows that if kids aren't kindergarten ready, they start their education behind, and that gap, if those interventions aren't immediately created for students, only widens over time.
Sure.
And I think that advocating for education, advocating for early childhood education, making sure that all kids, regardless of where they come from, have an opportunity to a good education is really important.
Definitely. And hitting on that equity piece more, I know that right now we're seeing that it's more important than ever, that inclusiveness in opportunities. And I would love to just hear a little bit more about why that inclusivity piece is so important to you.
I think for me, when I grew up in South Texas, given the demographic of, I'm making this up, but more Latinos than not,
right.
I would call it a minority-majority area.
Sure.
Your teachers, your elected officials are representative of the community. Mm-hmm. And that kind of inclusivity where you feel like the people who are in decision-making positions have power to include their communities. And right. When I came to Austin, that certainly was not the case. And so when we talk about inclusivity, the value goes beyond just including people of color. It's putting people of color and the BIPOC communities in positions of power. And I don't think it's a zero-sum game that some have to lose power to gain power. I think specifically when we're talking about inclusivity, we want to make sure that everyone has a seat at the table, that everyone's voice matters just as much as the next, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of how much money you make or where you come from or where you went to school and who you know. And those values are so hard to live out in an organization, not necessarily United Way, but in organizations, in systems that aren't necessarily created for that. And so the fight to make sure that there's a value there that it can live within an institution, within an organization that really brings to bear the equity and inclusion value, I think is super important. And for me, it's just a matter of, am I helping the organizations that I'm working with, be it my own employer or where I'm putting my own volunteer service, are we asking those questions to keep others accountable? And that's really hard, but I think it's so important.
I'd like to just circle back around to JP Morgan Chase, and would you love to speak to any ways that your organization is trying to do that in the community right now, just to promote inclusivity?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, inclusivity starts inside of the house, right? And I've always said, JP Morgan Chase certainly is not without flaw in kind of the larger systems that we play into. But I think that if you have to clean the machine, it's better to start from the inside out. And the work that we're doing around building inclusive communities is obviously driven by feedback that external communities have given us, but the work that we are doing inside the firm to ensure that we are promoting equitable hiring practices, that folks get access to the promotions and the big jobs and the big projects that they want, has to start inside first. And so I'm so proud the firm really has taken many, many steps towards ensuring that our practices are also inclusive, both from an employee HR perspective, but also from our lending practices and from our products and services that we offer the community. Taking that externally, the biggest function and the most important function of my job within our community engagement team is to play a listening ear, and a listening ear to understand, not to simply respond. I think that folks often think, all right, I got to come up with a good answer for this person who's giving me a ton of feedback. And oftentimes it's just take it in, right? Take in and understand what the feedback and the nature of the feedback that you're getting so that you can take it back to the business and fully represent the concept or the idea or the feedback that the community was trying to present.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think the listening ear piece is something that a lot of people just don't get right away. They want to fix it. They want to be solution oriented, which is not bad, but it's like you need to sit there and listen first to be able to know what the solutions even are. And I think that's a huge thing that you just notated. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us about your work with United Way, or just why you're passionate about the Austin community?
Joining the board of the United Way at this particular moment in time for me is significant because the organization is really trying to live out multiple values that I think align to what the city is trying to accomplish from an equity and inclusion perspective, but also where I find my personal passions and interests lie. And we've talked a little bit about the Success by Six work, but also the family sustainability initiatives that are a little further upstream, if you will, in the pipeline of eradicating poverty, I think is just as important. So we have families in Central Texas that are currently struggling to do what they can with the wages that they are earning, to provide for their family in a way that doesn't leave their children hungry. And I think the way Austin is growing, we often don't see that family struggle anymore. And that, because we don't have a lived experience in actually seeing these families in our downtown areas and our very fancy bougie restaurants that we all love to go to, I think that there is a disconnection between Austin being like this really wonderful, vibrant community for some, and not understanding that many are left behind. And we talk about the racial wealth divide, and we talk about the have and the have-nots, and we don't often talk about solutions because the problem feels like it's so big that we can't do anything. But the things that we can do are board service and volunteerism where we have time, or philanthropy when we don't have time and have money, or both where if that's an opportunity for some. But it's also, using your dollars in a conscious way, right? Think about the restaurants that you're patronizing. I think that if we are intentional with how we spend our dollars in a capitalistic way and where we place our time, I think it'll help bridge some of that misunderstanding or that like dissonance that we have, that Austin is like this really awesome place. It really is, but we want to make it an awesome place for everybody.